Meanwhile, the Biden administration is struggling because the reality of the Biden administration is they need a successful economy in order to ram through their gigantic spending agenda, at least in popular fashion. Well, the economy is beginning to stagnate. The U.S. economy grew at about 6.5% in Q2. There's only one problem. Virtually all economists thought it was going to grow at 8.5%. And if you recall, just a couple of months ago, they thought it was going to grow in excess of 10%. So it is not growing at the rate that they want it to grow. That's not stopping the media from feigning enthusiasm. You've got CNN Business saying the U.S. economy in the second quarter expanded at a slower rate than expected, but still its fastest pace since last fall, growing at a seasonally adjusted annualized rate of 6.5%. Their headline, by the way, at CNN Business is U.S. economy just posted the largest jump in growth since 2020. Yeah, that's not the headline.
Okay, you're talking about growth from a standstill, and fucking Ben... What is Hassan called Ben Shapiro? Whatever. Shapiro, whatever they call him. Yeah. No, here, let's look this up. Let's check out the M1 money stock. So, just so everyone realizes, this is all measured in... Okay, so, look. Here's the money stock from 1960. And it starts going apeshit. What do you know? February 2020. And when does it start slowing down? Oh man, what do you know? June of 2020. Whoa! Isn't that crazy? So look at this. If we bring this... So this is base money. Now, everyone's going to say, this doesn't mean anything because banks create money when they produce loans and blah, blah, yada, 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 whatever. And, like, that's true, but who cares? The point is, you have base money in the economy, which is realistically what... well, I mean, a president can do monetary policy, but here, let's look at federal debt historical. Let's see what we can find here. No, I want a graph. No, I want this. Oh, man. Okay. Well, federal debt, total public debt. Okay. So, yeah, let's look at this, right? This is monetary policy. Okay, look at where it grows. Look at this. Where does this end? Q2 2020 numbers. Q1, Q2. This was not Biden. This was Mr. Trump. That was Mr. Trump right there. And, no, I want my M1. Okay, and here's base money in the economy. Now, we'll just do the whole thing. So this is including the money from banks printing new loans. So yes, velocity is at an all-time low and super low. And I know if anyone ever actually watches this who knows anything about money, they're going to make me do this. They won't let me just show M1. But you can see whether it's M2, including currency issued by banks, currency created through loans, commercial banks. M1, base money supply, which really, I mean, look at this. When it comes to when you're talking about base, I mean, this is bonds. This is purchasing bonds. I mean, you had all the other shit, but yeah, you did have direct payments and stuff, but and then you have total public debt. This is all Trump. So if Shapiro here is going to try to make an argument, this is all Donald Trump's fault. All of the inflation is the spendy Democrats, and the Republicans are so frugal, then, yeah.
Headline. The headline is not the largest jump in growth since 2020. The headline is, you missed your mark by 25%. In terms of real GDP, the economy has now recovered in that it has grown bigger than its pre-pandemic size. But does anyone feel that the economy is really...
What I was going to say in the first place is the economy is growing relative to the dip it took. So we stopped the economy. So yes, it's growing, but that's not real growth. And that's measured in dollars. So they're not
at that rate. The answer is no, because
adjusting for
GDP is
inflation.
being racked up by government spending. It's being held up by the amount of government spending that's being done. The National Bureau of Economic Research designated the pandemic recession as the shortest on record, saying it lasted just 2 months, March and April of 2020, which is when the shutdowns were. In normal times, says CNN Business, 6.5% growth would be a reason to celebrate. It's still pretty good performance, but it's disappointment compared with the 8.5% growth rate economists had forecast. It was only a little change from the first quarter, when the economy grew at an annual rate of 6.3%, which, by the way, is kind of amazing, because you'll remember that something happened between the first quarter of this year and the second quarter of this year, namely the mass vaccination of Americans, and yet nothing is changing, which suggests two things. One, the Biden administration's constant drumbeat of doom and gloom with regard to the future of the virus, and their unwillingness to acknowledge that the pandemic no longer has public health ramifications, means that people are staying home. And two, when you pay people to stay home and then spend trillions of dollars on nonsensical crap, you end up actually subjecting the U.S. economy to headwinds that it can't fully overcome. According to CNN itself, the acceleration in the recovery was spurred by consumer spending, not least spurred by the last round of stimulus checks, as well as the reopening of the economy and continued vaccination. Consumers spent more on services, particularly on dining out and traveling. Driven by the same dynamics, measures of inflation rose throughout the spring. For example, the price index that
People spent more on everything because the price of everything went up. This is
tracks personal consumption rose to 6.4% in the second quarter. That was its highest level since 1982. Even if you strip out the more volatile items like food and energy, the price index was at 6.1%, the highest reading since 1983. And here's the thing. The Federal Reserve they do not have the stones to actually jack up the interest rates in a way necessary to cut down on the inflation. They're not going to do it. Not when the economy is this slow. If the economy is not faster than this, see, if the economy if we were like 8.5% growth or something, then they could say, listen, we're growing super fast, natural economic recovery is happening, we need to raise the interest rates a little bit to prevent overheating and to prevent price inflation. Instead, because the economy is growing slower than expected, they are going to continue to rack up quantitative easing. They're going to continue to jack money into the economy and keep the interest rates at zero out of fear that they're going to sink Joe Biden's economic record here.
okay. Yes, that is true. But that's not Joe Biden, and that's not the Democrats. This they have to do. If you look at any of these graphs spread out over a long period of time, it's all exponential. You had the Trump blip, which, I mean, it was a crazy blip, especially in M1. You had a real blip. I mean, that was Trump. But yeah, the tangent line on this is going to keep increasing. The slope has to keep increasing. It's an exponential curve. It has to be, because if you need to pump 8% more money into the economy each year, it's going to compound on itself. So it's always going to be exponential. So it has to be exponential. So they can do this with every president, the next president in. I'm not saying it should be. I'm saying forget all of this. I hope he's right. I hope they don't jack interest rates back up, and they let this hyperinflate out of control. I don't think they're ready to lose the dollar.
Meanwhile, the Democrats are so disconnected from reality that they're worried that Joe Biden isn't spending enough. According to The Hill, Democrats are now warning that any attempts by moderates to pare down a $3.5 trillion spending package could threaten President Biden's top legislative priority and leave the party empty-handed. So Joe Biden wants to get everything done in his budget package. He's got the bipartisan infrastructure bill, the $1 trillion boondoggle, which is at least better than the $2 trillion boondoggle they're originally proposing. Now, it's a $1 trillion boondoggle, which still sucks, but is better than the alternative, presumably. Then they have their giant budget package. That giant budget package, the $3.5 trillion budget package, as you will recall, has been held up by Kristen Sinema in the Senate, as well as Joe Manchin, both of whom look at this and they're saying this is too much money. Now you've got Democrats in the Senate saying, we're not going to vote for the infrastructure package if you don't vote for the $3.5 trillion package. And not just that, Joe Biden now is saying that he wants immigration reform in the budget package, meaning he wants to legalize some 8 to 10 million illegal immigrants in the United States in the budget reconciliation package. By the way, the parliamentarian hasn't even said if you can do that under budget reconciliation. The answer is probably not, but who the hell knows? Progressive Democrats are sounding the alarm after Kristen Sinema warned Wednesday she doesn't support the $3.5 trillion price tag for the expansive package Democrats hope to muscle through. Biden is saying he's basically negotiating with her. He thinks she'll end up voting for it in the end, but they may have to cut a few things. Democrats hope to move the legislation on party lines in the Senate with special budgetary rules, but every Democrat, because there are only 50 of them, every Democrat can hold this thing up with one vote. Progressives are saying they're going to hold up the infrastructure plan unless they get the $3.5 trillion plan. Bernie Sanders said, it's my absolute conviction, you're not going to have a bipartisan bill unless you have a reconciliation bill of $3.5 trillion. So as we discussed yesterday, Joe Biden is now stuck between the progressive rock and the moderate hard place. Right now, the Republican...
Okay, do you see this? 23 to 26. That's $3 trillion of new bonds issued, new government debt. That doesn't even count the money that the government's bringing in. But, yeah, I mean, this is a lie. This is a lie that you hear from Republicans a lot. Not that Democrats are better. I'm just saying the idea that conservatives are the fiscally responsible group that's going to save the dollar is just...
Republicans aren't going to vote in favor of that bipartisan infrastructure plan at all, unless the Democrats pare down the $3.5 trillion plan, and the progressives won't vote for the bipartisan plan, or the budget plan, unless they continue to have it at $3.5 trillion. Sanders says he expects the spending plan to be $3.5 trillion in the Senate, maybe even more in the House. And Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut adds that any push to decrease the price tag for the spending package would make it hard to get the votes for it. Man, the Democrats are just cruising for a bruising in 2022 on all fronts. Whether we were talking about these authoritarian lockdown measures, completely nonsensical, or whether we're talking about the vast spending that is resulting in reduced and tamped down economic growth, they are just cruising for it in 2022, which is why they're so focused in, as always, on Trump in January 6th, because 2022 is looking to be an ugly year for them. 2024 could be even worse, especially if Kamala Harris is on the ballot. Who's got two thumbs and wants you to like and subscribe?
Introducing League of Legends. Woo! What is League of Legends? And why do I play it so much?
Oh, that's it? Alright, that's it.